Reverend Divine is not with us. And that's not because of anything that she did or didn't want to do. It's because of a little buggy that got involved with her system and decided that she needed to take rest and recuperation rather than be here. So, instead of Reverend Divine, we'll vamp. And we'll vamp from the standpoint of three different parts. I'll do an inspirational sharing. Our board president will do an inspirational sharing, and then Dr. Ernest Holmes will do an inspirational sharing. And yes, we do have a way of doing that. Yesterday I played golf. That's not a shocking thing. I play a lot of golf, but yesterday I played golf in a tournament, which is the first time in like 30 years I've actually done something like that. And it's a really interesting thing to get out and get competitive and bring the consciousness that you need to bring to playing golf. If we look at New Thought and we look at golf, amazingly are very similar. First of all, you have your choice. You can choose the white tee, or you can choose the blue tee, or you can choose the red tee. You can choose any tee you want. But if you're playing in a tournament, you're going to play from the same tee. So we all start from the same place. Then you get to hit your first shot. And in a golf tournament, there's no do-overs. There's no gimmies. There's no mulligans. You hit your first shot and you play it from where it lands. And that's kind of like life, isn't it? You just get to play it where it lands. And if it lands in a hole, you play it out of the hole. If it lands in the fairway, you play it from the fairway. And if it lands in the sand trap, well, that's where you get to play it from. And in the golf bag, you have assorted various different implements of destruction that enable you to get in and out of different situations. You know, you have the driver, and the driver is a great club, but the driver doesn't work very well for a 90-yard shot. You got to use a 9-iron. And the driver doesn't work very well for putting either, you know, because you got to use a putter for that. There are different types of shots. So there's different types of things that we can do spiritually. We can pray. We can meditate. We can contemplate. We can vision. Each one of these things are in our spiritual golf bag. Enable us to get from tee to green and get through that day that we need to do. Sometimes it's prayer. Sometimes it's, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And sometimes it's just, I'm here. Use me. And sometimes it's just, I am. I am that I am. Each one of these things gives us the ability to tie into, with, and through Spirit, as Spirit, with Spirit. And because we know this, there isn't anything that we can't overcome, we can't do, once we set our mind through choice. And that's really the fundamental teaching that we celebrate here. We all have a choice. And even if your choice wasn't so good the last one, you can always make a new one. You don't have to take the driver out and putt with it. So, thank you very much. And I'm going to call up Lynne, and she's going to share with us.
Well, so Bruce and I coordinated this in no way, just so you guys know. And what came up into my awareness to share today was about choice. So thank you. Thank you for that wonderful first part. And so I didn't know if I was going to share this with you or not, but in Dear Abby on Friday, It says, "Dear Abby, a friend and I had a falling out over a manners thing. When 3 people eat out together and everyone orders their own dessert, is it rude not to allow someone to take a bite of yours?" It's like, wow, this is about choice, right? And so depending on what you grew up with and sort of what your underlying beliefs are, you might say, why, that was very rude not to share that dessert. Or you might say, yes, no, or negotiate. It's all perfect. Right? So with choices, as I was doing a lot of self-development, that's what I actually learned, is that when something came, whether it sounded like a request, like it seemed to have a question mark at the end, or whether it was more of a statement, really my job as an adult, and actually with the teachings of Ernest and being a creator, is to really look at what my own commitments are and then to freely choose yes, no, or negotiate. And so wow, as I understood that, my life flowed better. Because when I grew up, I don't know about you guys, but when I grew up, there were things that sounded like questions that were really not. I was told, or I was asked, why don't you go do your chores now, which included dusting these many marble windowsills. I really hated that job. And the thing is I knew that the only answer to that was yes. And so I grew up as a child not understanding that I actually had a choice when people asked me things. And so when I came into an adulthood, instead of looking at what I was aligned with, I would just kind of have those auto responses that were programmed, what Ernest calls thought patterns. Because everything's conscious at some point in our lives, and then it becomes subconscious as we have it become habit. And there's so much that goes on in a life every day. It's like, wow, what if we brought up consciously how it is we put our pants on one leg at a time, and how we brushed our teeth, and just all of those rudimentary things of life. And so I've been thinking about that choice a lot and looking at my commitments. And I've started to understand. So I have 2 commitments that I'll share with you. One is that I'm well and healthy and my body moves with ease and joy. For me, yay! I say try that on if you like it. And the other one that I have is that I know that each of us has a beautiful voice, and as those get combined together, it's the same way that instruments come into an orchestra to create a magnificent work that is just so much more than any one person brings. And so when I think about what happens in my life, I align with those a lot. And then my choices can come from that place. So Ernest teaches that we can either do 2 things. We can either focus on what we're creating and notice our emotions and our alignment with that, or we can focus on the condition that we don't want. And when we focus and align with that, then sometimes we don't feel so good, right? Because we're thinking about what we do not want. And then the law doesn't get the word not, right? The law of creation. And so the more we say not, so you've heard the example of not war, right? Which the emotion becomes the word war, and then what we get in our existence of more is more of that thing we don't want. And so as I've gone through my life, I've said, how do I focus more on the what I do want part? And so as I've done that, my life has opened up and in general is joyous. And then a lot of you guys are saying, so what about your finger, Lynne? It's like, how's that going for you? And so I had told a couple of people I would talk about this a little bit. So I have, because of this whole voices coming together thing, when somebody is wanting to do something and I see that I can support them in that, I tend to want to say yes. Well, my husband wanted to get some things out of the truck that were very heavy that could be separated into a lighter load, but he was in a hurry. And so he said to me, grab that end of the toolbox, which was fully loaded. I think it was hundreds of pounds. And I said to him, right, the yes, no negotiated, I said, I think that maybe we should unpack this and try to lift the lighter pieces out of the truck. And he's like, oh no, let's just do it. We only have to move it a few feet, right? It's in the tailgate. And as we're talking and I'm trying to negotiate this, he jerked it out and it kind of went off the edge of the bed, and I reached in to grab the end because I'm helpful, right? This was a subconscious reaction. And so as it went down, I smashed my finger. Good news, not broken, few stitches, it'll heal. And so what was so interesting for me in that was the gift that I got to see what was in my subconscious in this area. So, there's this alignment with what I'm creating, and then there's the whole subconscious piece. And as it comes up and becomes conscious again, we get to choose all over and create new thought patterns. And so that was the gift for me this week, is to be able to see what was invisible in my life. And to ask one more time and to re-choose, does it serve what my commitments are, and is it aligned with what's being created in the universe? And so as you go through your life and you think about either, do you want to share your dessert? Why not? Or why? Or you just say, is that something I really want to do? To just take that in thoughtfully and use your emotions as your guide about how that's going to flow into your life and your experience. Thanks.